Welcome to These Fertile Grounds, a podcast dedicated to planting the seeds that inspire women to pursue authentic, purposeful, and fulfilling careers. I am your host and career coach, Zainab Kahira. Cymphoni Laster Yancy, the Creative Director of Runi, a luxury resort wear brand established in 2017, is a Georgia-based fashion designer with roots in Michigan. Holding a Bachelor of Fine Arts from Georgia State University, she has curated art shows for various organizations, including City of Ink Art Gallery. Currently, she serves as the Graphic Arts Director at FAM USA. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Cymphoni Laster Yancy. Hello, Cymphoni.
Hi, Zainab.
Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for asking and having me. I'm super excited to
Of course. So everybody has heard Cymphoni's background a little bit through me sharing her bio, but I wanted to share how I know her. So, do you know I mentioned you were 17?
Yes. You always mention that.
Do I really? Because
yes.
You know what it is? It's like, I just look at you all kind of like, not my children, but like a younger sibling. Even with my younger sibling, I still have moments when I'm like, I remember when you were 5, you know? So, but it's such a rewarding feeling to watch somebody's growth and trajectory. And so, because you were like, of all the people I've known, like you were the youngest in like your age when I met you. It's been even more rewarding to just see you grow and evolve into the woman you are now. And I still pinch myself that you're married. And you've been married for what, like 5 years now at this point?
Yeah, it'll be 5 years next week.
So I wanted to have you here because, Cymphoni's story, her career story has been just remarkable. And I'll share like my view of you from the outside. Just someone who was willing to take a risk, knew they had a talent, and really wanted to leverage it, right? And really wanted to build their dream around it. And that takes so much courage, because we both know a bunch of people who are really talented at things and they're just not using it because of a lot of fear and other factors involved. And so I genuinely love that you have been over the years just investing in yourself. So I would love for you to just kind of share just kind of the origins of your career and what got you to where you are now. And I'll obviously share more about your company and things like that.
Yeah, of course. So, where do I start? It's really a long story. I had a revelation actually after watching the Barbie movie last week. So I'll tell you about that because it has to kind of do with my career. I looked up, I remember like as a child playing a Barbie fashion designer game. And so after the movie, I just kind of looked it up. Like, when did this game come out? And it came out, I think, in like 1999 or 2000 or something like that. So at that point, I was like 8 or 9 years old. But I used to love that game. I would be obsessed with it. And then when I was like a preteen, of course, that was the era of like Next Top Model and Project Runway. And I was just always super fascinated with fashion and clothing, no matter what. I'm from Flint, Michigan. So I'm from a small town in the Midwest. Like, we have our own sense of like style and what's going on. But like the bigger, glitz and glam of it all is not really a part of that culture. And when I decided to go to college, I was like, I'm either going to go to SCAD, which is Savannah College of Art and Design, which is like really super expensive private school. But of course, I wanted to be a designer. Or I could go to Georgia State to start and just kind of get my recs out of the way and then eventually transfer to SCAD. So that was like my thought process when I was 17, figuring out where I was going to go to college. And I ended up at Georgia State. And throughout, I think it was either right after I had joined the sorority, I had a conversation with Izzy, and she was like, what do you want to do? Because I was like, well, I was thinking about transferring to SCAD, but it's just so expensive. Like, I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. So I'm either going to do like fashion journalism. I'll study journalism at Georgia State, or there's a textiles program at Georgia State that I could do. And she said, you need to do textiles. She said, whatever you want to, if you want to be a designer, you need to know as much as you can about that craft, even if it's not actually design. So she was the one that encouraged me to pursue an art degree. And I was about a semester behind. So Georgia State, you know how they work, but they used to have these like freshman learning communities, and there was no art one. So I just kind of had like a basic freshman year. Of course, after I graduated, they finally developed like a freshman course for art students so that you could like be on time with the other art students. But I started studying art like my second year. So I was a year behind. But throughout like being in the sorority and everything that we were doing, I was taking 3 studio classes at once to try and like catch up, which they were like, you never do that. But I was like, whatever. I took like 3 studio classes, and they were still just like, you can't do this. Like, you can't apply for the major until you're at a certain point. And so I had to stay an extra year at school because I still had to apply like at the same time, even if I had the number of courses under my study. And I wanted to do a marketing minor. So I was taking like marketing classes and econ classes and stuff. And they were like, we don't care about that. You can't do a BFA and a marketing minor. Don't know why. But I had a lot of like marketing experience from taking those classes. Of course, being in the sorority, I had a lot of like, I had a business mindset.
For sure.
And just learn how to operate and work with groups and talk to people. So I always had a business mindset. And then I had like my creativity over here. And I feel like a lot of artists, they don't mix. Like, unless you mix them yourself, it's like your art, you're creative, you're drawing, and you just figure it out. They're not going to tell you how to market it. They're not going to tell you how to get a job. They're not going to show you about professional development. It's all about, what are you making? Does it make sense? Like, what does it mean? Is it meaningful to you? Here's color theory. Here's the tools. And you go and just go out into the world. But because I had like that business background and I chose to join a sorority at such a young age, like I always had a certain professionalism and business acumen to me. But while I was in the textiles program, it allowed me to be freer as an artist than I imagined, especially, and as a designer. Of course, I was taught to be an artist, to make things that are meaningful and, are important to me. But I wanted to be a designer. So I learned like the skills, like I learned how to sew. I learned how to design, graphic design on the computer, and, surface design and different techniques. And like, I learned the technical aspect of it, but it was never like, this is to be a designer. This is to make art. But I got an opportunity to intern with a fashion designer. I think it was my senior year, maybe right before my senior year. And that was a really crazy experience. She was a new designer. She had just graduated from RISD, which is a Rhode Island School of Design. She was from Atlanta. She moved back to Georgia, and she was having like her first fashion show at the W. And we worked together. I learned a lot about like pattern making and more of the actual, like, this is for designing clothing type thing. And we had a good relationship. It ended on a sour note. It's a long story. I'm not going to get into it. But she took me to Fashion Week. So it was the first time I was ever able to go to Fashion Week. It was in 2013.
New York?
Yes, in New York. Okay. And that was, it was an interesting experience for me, because that's when I realized the difference between like what I was learning in school, which is like to make art for art's sake, versus like fashion, which is an industry, to make clothing to sell to people, and it's like a classes sort of system. Like when you're in art school, you're very introspective. You're thinking about the meaning of everything.
Yeah.
And when you're in an industry, it's just kind of like, who do you know? It's like very celebrity driven.
Yeah.
It's not really driven by like, what does this mean, or the impacts. And if it is, it's just like on a smaller scale. So that experience, even though like I had fun in New York, I was like, I don't know if I necessarily want to be a part of an industry that is very classist and very like celebrity focused and superficial, when I was coming from a place with like such compassion and meaning. So when I graduated, I just wanted to get a job. So I started, I got a job at Goldman Sachs, and I was doing administrative assistant work, and I was being paid really well and, you know, living life, but I was still just unfulfilled because I wasn't doing anything creative. So then I started to curate my own art shows, just to help other artists have a platform and have access to things that will help like their CV. Artists have CVs. So like you need CVs, you need to have art show experience. So that was something that I planned and put together, and it was a good experience. I enjoyed it. I got to get back into art making while outside of school, which is really hard to do when you're working. But I got to make art that I wanted to make and then show it to people. And it was always clothing influence. It was always wearable, or it was personal to me as a Black woman in my experience. And then I met this celebrity. I don't even want to call him a celebrity tattoo artist, because he's not a tattoo artist to the celebrities, but he is a celebrity tattoo
he's
artist.
Well known. Yes.
In Atlanta, and I worked with him at his galleries for a year, just volunteer work, and that was very cutthroat.
Wow.
That was a very cutthroat experience, but again, I learned a lot, and I love like Atlanta's art scene and Atlanta's art culture is very special. It's unique. It's diverse. And so just having that experience and like meeting those people was just good for me overall. And around the time, I'm trying to think. So in 2017, me and Ruby met in 2015, but in 2017, she was doing stylist. She was working full time at like Nordstrom's or something. And she will always go to like the boutiques and fibs trying to find stuff. And she was just like, this stuff is so expensive, but it's not original. It's not quality. Like, I don't really know if this is something that I want to invest in. And I was like, well, we could do it. We have our own brand.
I love it. Oh, I love it.
And so 2017 is when we officially like got our LLC, got started. But then she was transferred to Puerto Rico, and I was about to get married. So we kind of put that on pause so I could focus on like getting married, and she would be in Puerto Rico. But we still kind of did slow things. But then I think in 2017, the place where I'm currently employed reached out to me and was like, hey, are you interested in a position? And I was like, yes, I'm interested. They told me what the money was, and I was like, I'm not interested. Because I was like, I'm getting married. Like, I got a wedding to pay for. This is not the time for a pay cut. And me and now my current boss at the time, we would play like phone tag with each other, and just she'd be like, okay, well, you can do freelance, you can do whatever works for you. And I'll reach out to her like, hey, do you have any freelance work? And she wouldn't get back to me. And so we were playing tag for a long time. And then right after I got married in 2018, like I was actively looking for a new job, because I was like, I'm just not fulfilled in this place. It's so stressful, and I'm not doing anything like with my life. I'm doing all of that outside of it. So I was married. And so Brent was really supportive of me, like transitioning careers at that point too. So I called her one day or text or emailed her or something. She was like, "Yeah, I'm still looking for somebody. Come in and interview." So I came and I interviewed. They offered me more money, not as much as
Good.
I wanted, but it was more than
Yeah.
what they were offering at first. And I was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
cool." And I hadn't really heard from her. I think that was like it was literally like a week or two after I got married in August, and I hadn't heard from her until like the end of September.
Mm.
So I really didn't know if I had a job. Like when we interviewed, it sounded like
Yeah.
it, but I really didn't know. And then she was like, "Yeah, I want you to start in 2 weeks." And I was like, "Okay." So I left the comfort of my stable finance job to go work at this fashion manufacturing company. And yeah, my life has been that ever since. And
Mhm.
they've been really integral in like what we've done at Runi.
Mhm.
Um, just from the start, from like selling t-shirts to like selling wholesale to like now we're completely 100% our own products. Um,
Yeah.
so they've
Yeah.
been really supportive. My boss is like a mentor to me and just like helping me figure all of this out.
Wow.
And that's
So
how I got there.
I wanted to ask, because you stopped at, your current job, but so 2017, the concept happened. Ruby moved to Puerto Rico. She moved back in like what, 2018,
2020.
2020.
So 20
Okay.
she was supposed to be there. She was still there in 2020, but then the pandemic
Damn it.
happened and
Yeah.
they closed her location. So she moved back to Miami. And
Uh-huh.
then I think maybe officially in 2021 she moved back to Atlanta. But in
Okay.
2020 she was in Miami. And then
Okay.
in 2021 she moved back to Atlanta.
But you all at that point had launched, because I remember seeing your products out there. When was the first release of products for you all?
October 2019.
2019. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
So we started off like the very first launch. Maybe it was a mix. It was a mix of shirts, like t-shirts, the
Yeah,
manifested shirt.
t-shirts. Yeah.
Um, and then we had some wholesale items that we purchased from other vendors. So we were doing like it was an actual boutique at
Okay.
that point.
Okay, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. All right. But now what's included in your product line? Because you
Oh
have a
yes, we've
lot of
been through
stuff.
we've been through so many pivots. But I
Yeah.
think we have found our purpose as a brand and like our niche. So
Mm-hmm.
we of course we launched in October 2019. We had like those wholesale items and those
Mm-hmm.
are doing okay. People were supporting it. And then the pandemic happened
Mm-hmm.
and then we went to loungewear because everybody was at home. And that went
Mm-hmm.
really well. But
Mm-hmm.
at the time, at work, me and my boss were kind of working on some original designs. So that
Mm-hmm.
this dress, that green dress was the first.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is I've seen that dress in a lot of places, and it looks good on
Yes.
everybody.
Yes.
Everybody who
Everybody
wears
has
it, very
it.
well designed structurally. It's a really good, really pretty dress. Yeah.
Yeah. So that one we have been working on. I think I started working on in like November 2019. Oh, and then I had a trip in 2020 before the pandemic. So that was done for that trip. And then another dress, which was
Mm-hmm.
pink because it was for me, but we integrated that into the line
Okay.
as green. So we had like two dresses, and then we had some swimsuits, but those swimsuits were things that we purchased from other vendors and
Right.
retail. So we didn't have
Right.
any original swimsuit designs. And
Right.
so that was good. Everybody say everybody made money in 2020, but everybody did make money in 2020, businesses, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
2020,
Especially retailers, because all we could do was eat and shop.
yeah, yes. So 2020 was really good. So we just continued to use the money that we made to invest in the brand, and
Mm-hmm.
we did a athletic wear collaboration. Ruby is really into fitness,
Yeah.
and my sister is really into fitness, and
Mm-hmm.
the company that I work for is athletics is their specialty. They do a lot of
Gotcha.
of everything else, but athletics
Mm-hmm.
is their specialty. So it was kind of like, well, let's just, let's make some fitness wear.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't go as well as I wanted it to go.
That's a part of the journey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just finding things out. Cause I think people do spend money on athletics, but it's mostly women. And it's
Yeah.
like, they have to know, like Gymshark, Lululemon, they got a chokehold on the
Yeah.
market.
Yeah, they
So,
do.
yeah, so we pivoted off of that. And I don't know, maybe, at some point I was like, let's just do resort wear. I don't know when it was, but somewhere in between 2021 and 2022,
Yeah.
I was like, let's just, just do resort wear. I love being on vacation. I'm always taking pictures when I'm on vacation. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what gives me the most inspiration.
Yeah.
And I feel more at peace about being able to sell it.
Yeah.
And so that's where we decided at the end of 2021 to like, okay, we're going to do our own swimsuits. We already have some dresses
Right.
in the process.
Yeah.
So that's how
So
we
you
got.
would say now you're the general theme of your work, your clothing is resort wear.
Yes.
Yeah, I can totally see it. Your clothing has such a beautiful beachy vibe, and it does make you feel like you're going to dinner, on the beach in Miami, or you're in some Caribbean beach, hanging out, right? That's
Exactly.
really good. I love that. A couple of things, I was writing notes because you shared so much. Thank you so much for that. But first thing that came up for me was I love how you talked about it was a lot of trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times, especially with entrepreneurs, they internalize their failures, and sometimes that causes them to just jump ship altogether. Like they don't try to see it through, so like when you like when the athletic line didn't go through, like when certain lines didn't work out, like how did you keep the momentum going? Like how did you not get discouraged?
I just pushed through. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's like the theme of my life is just like,
Yeah.
it sounds corny, but it's like you can't give up.
Yeah.
And you just have to just try. I mean, I always tell my business partner and my husband, like, I'm not going to be satisfied unless I try everything that I could possibly try.
Yeah.
So, the athletic thing, like, it was good in theory, but the execution it didn't yield us the results that we were looking for.
Yeah.
So, let's just try something else. Like, it's
Yeah.
not the end of the world, because we do have products that sell, i.e. this dress that
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
podcast.
Yes, it is. Listen.
Um,
Yeah.
and other things. So it's like these things, they're the highest quality. We don't have any issues with them. We pretty much have like a 100% success rate. So I just focused on what was going well and what do we do well. And it's okay to
Yes.
kind of like phase things out and
Yeah.
and pay attention to what your audience or what your customer base is giving you. And I mean, I think too, especially when you're first starting out, a lot of your customers are your friends, your family, and they
Mm-hmm.
don't want to give you honest feedback.
No.
Right, I need honest feedback.
Yeah.
Some people do give us honest feedback. Some people, they're not as vocal about it, but that helps you get better. Like I had, oh my gosh, quite recently, actually, I had one of the most worst customer experiences, in my career. And I say I wanted to give up, but I was just like, this sucks really, really bad.
Yeah.
But it taught me a lot. And something my boss always says is like, okay, so what did you learn? Like whenever you make a mistake,
Yeah.
what did you learn?
Yeah.
So that you just have, everything is a learning experience. Like, it may be a bad experience, maybe a loss, but at the end of the day, like, what did you learn and how are you going to move forward from that? And so I think that's kind of how I proceed every day with moving forward with the business.
Yeah. And I use the term trial and error, but I've kind of reframed it as trial and reflection. And you articulated that, like, a lot of it's just about what can we learn from each situation. And then also, like, different situations have a purpose, and that purpose can be fulfilled. And then it's time for us to move on to the next thing. Right. And sometimes that situation can be really short, like a real one-off. It's like, okay, I received everything I was supposed to receive from this. Let's keep moving, you know? Something else that you said that I really loved. And I think sometimes people struggle with this because we do live in a very visual age. So we're seeing so much online, social media. And so a lot of times we feel like we have to cater to our audience. And that is important. But I think when you are driving a product or a service, you have to start with yourself. I often tell my clients, like, you're your first customer. So I love that for you. You use that the joy and the love of vacationing as your inspiration for your, for your line, so that you said something like, I don't know if you said I felt safe or I felt comfortable making products like this. So can you talk me through a little bit, just a little bit more, like what made you decide to just do what you wanted to do? Because I think there's a level of authenticity in that too. That's the other thing I wanted to tie in. Being your true authentic self is also creating, things that align with you, right? And being okay with that.
Yes. I think that, let me see. I don't know why. Well, it's like everybody loves being on vacation, but I am I love going to the beach. Really doesn't matter. I have my favorite beaches, but like, as long as I'm near the ocean or a Gulf or whatever, like, I feel just so relaxed and so calm. And I think it's easier to, get into a creative mindset when you're not so, worried about everything else that's going on. Something too that I always did as a part of my creative process was just like take pictures of nature in nature. I'm always inspired by like trees and flowers and all different kinds of stuff like that. And so, of course, you get the most vibrant colors in those tropical settings. But I've even taken trees like in the Chattahoochee forest, like to math. But yeah, I'm just always inspired by like what God has created in the naturally. So that is a big thing for me in my like creative and design process, is just like what is naturally occurring like within the world, or on earth. And so that's kind of where I come from in the resort aspect. And my family always say, "Oh my God, Cymphoni, you're so good at planning trips. You should be a travel agent." Da, 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 da. And I'm like, no.
I'm good at planning trips for myself.
Yes.
There's a difference.
Yes. Like, I just like to have a good time. I like things to be easy. I don't like things to be stressful, especially when I'm on vacation. So like, that's, and it's, again, that's where I feel comfortable sharing. When you have a business, you have to be online. Sucks. You do have to be online. So like, what do I feel most comfortable sharing with people is just like beautiful things. I used to have this quote on my Instagram bio, I think on my artist Instagram bio, because it would be funny in school. My teacher would say like, "Cymphoni, you make such pretty things." Like, and it's kind of derogatory, but in an affectionate way, especially when you're in art school. Like, you don't want to always be making like cutesy stuff. But I was like, no, like, That's just me.
Yeah.
Like, I just like beautiful things. I like beautiful sunsets. I like beautiful flowers. Like,
Yeah.
so I always said, like, my name is Cymphoni and I make pretty things. Like,
Listen, that's how, but I love how you repurposed it, right? Like
yeah.
you repurposed it to be your own. There was a question I was going to ask you. Oh yeah. So when you are on the beach or near water or nature, do you, is that a space like are you able to take a sketch pad and sit on the beach and like create and things like that, or is it like after you've left you
It's
get
more
the inspiration?
after. I make sure that I'm definitely always taking pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely helps. I think this actual last collection,
Mm-hmm.
the color scheme came from a trip to Jamaica in 2021. And I was taking pictures
Oh,
of like really vibrant hibiscus flowers that were like bright
yeah.
pink and yellow and orange and all this. So that came from
Mm-hmm.
those things. And I'll sketch in the airport. I've done that before.
Mm-hmm.
And just different ideas. But when I'm on vacation, I try not to think about work
Work. Yeah, that's true.
because
I
now
get
it's
that.
work.
Yeah, exactly. And it sounds like you just also just when you get a creative inspiration, but you also just capture it in the best way that you can, and then go revisit it for
Right.
future. And I like that. And
Right.
listening to you, I had two parents who they both went to Pratt, which is an art school in New York,
Hmm.
and my dad went the architecture route, and my mom went the fashion design route. And when there's so many things you were sharing that reminded me of her, because like for instance, she also would do art. She would paint, and when I was a kid, and she had to do like a piece of artwork, or even if she was sewing clothes, because she sewed clothes, I remember she would be up late at night, and she used to tell me that that was when she felt the most um, like spiritually, she felt the most inspired.
Hmm.
And so when you were talking about being at the beach, and it reminded me of just like as artists, you have to tap into that source, that place that that allows you to be open to receive the creativity and the
Hmm.
inspiration,
Hmm.
instead of necessarily feeling like you have to force it.
Hmm.
Right? It's less about I gotta make this design, and it's more about I have to be in a space of openness and peace so that the
Hmm.
design can come to me. And I really feel like art, I mean, anything creative, I believe is divinely inspired.
Hmm.
It's like, it, where else is it going to come from? Right? Like, where
Yeah.
else, so I just, when you were sharing that, I really love that. But I wanted to go back to a couple things. So you mentioned like being at New York Fashion Week, and you were kind of turned off by the superficiality. And my mom used to say that all the time. She's like, I couldn't deal with those people. And she was from New York, and she was like,
And that's
nah, this not my
she
vibe.
knew. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't her vibe. And that was just because she really valued authenticity,
Hmm.
and she was a really like humble, and she didn't like to put on a facade. She wanted to be
Hmm.
herself.
Hmm.
But you are now elevating your business where you are doing fashion shows, right? And
Hmm.
Miami is a
Hmm.
pretty big fashion, hub. Um, so how are you navigating?
That, it's
Yeah.
interesting. So the first year we went to Miami Swim Week as visitors, and it was transformational. We
Hmm.
have footage of us just like discussing that experience because we're in landlocked Atlanta, like
Yeah.
nobody cares about resort
No.
wear here.
No.
Um,
No.
it's all streetwear, which is great and fantastic in and of itself. But for
Hmm.
the most part, what we do is kind of like we were creating in a vacuum and we didn't
Yeah.
know that like, oh, this is something that people care about. Like we had an idea, but we didn't know until we went to Miami Swim Week the first time that there's an industry for this where people will pay for this, where people, you know, like everybody is dressed up accordingly in the style, and like it's taken seriously. And so that felt like a good validation, because again, when you're like creating in a vacuum, you're kind of like, am I just doing this for myself? Which is fine.
Yeah.
To make some money.
Yeah. You still got to run a business. Yeah.
Right. So going to Miami Swim Week let us know, okay, there's a business here. There is an industry for this here. And the shows that we went to, they were pretty diverse. I would say when I was interning 10 years ago, that was not something that people cared about. Diversity in color or diversity in body type or anything like that.
Which is wild, because you weren't interning that long ago. That's
right.
What, within 10 years, which is
right.
wild to me. Yeah.
So the fashion industry has changed a lot within that time frame of like what they're showing. I was looking at Harper's Bazaar magazine. We get them now, but who reads magazines? But we get them now, and I was just like looking through them, and it was like Black and brown models like at the beginning of the book, and I was like,
wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but it's good. It's a good thing. And so the shows that we went to, like we saw, like it was very diverse. The people who were showing clothing, the designers were diverse. And so again, it kind of really felt kismet that like this is the part of the industry that we're supposed to be in. There are people that look like us. There are people doing the things that we do, that care about the same things that we care about. So it made it easier for us to do that, to become a part of that industry.
Yeah.
I have like a facet to this year with us having our first show. That was it's a whole thing. I really don't want to tell that super long story because I don't want to keep it.
It's okay.
But we started fundraising for this show at the beginning of the year, and we really had no idea how we were going to have a fashion show. Literally up until the month before our fashion show. I just we knew that regardless if we were going to have a fashion show or not, we were going to go to Miami. We were going to take clothes there and just try to be visible as much as we could. So throughout the whole year, I was working on these new designs. Something that I learned at my job was digital pattern making. And I didn't go to school for pattern making. So this skill I learned completely at work. And this collection is the first collection that I pretty much made all on my own. From digital, I mean, I didn't sew it, but from the
the design.
Yeah. To like the print, and I did some sewing though. I did do some sewing, but for the most part, I did the entire project myself. So I've been working on it for a long time, and when we got the opportunity to have a fashion show, we were excited, and they were really accommodating to us. Pretty much everything we asked of them, they gave us. There was only one thing. So we asked if we could have our own models, because we have people who represent the brand, or who have modeled for us before and are on our website.
Like your sister.
Yes. And they said that was fine. And we were asking Marlene and our other models if they wanted to be involved, and they said yes. And then we got a call from our director. So the hotel is putting on this fashion show. They're basically kind of the sponsor. They're using it in their branding and promotion. And they told us that we couldn't have any plus size models. So that was like the first. Yeah. That was the first. That was the kind of like a really big bummer, like, because I was like, this is crazy. But it was also like, well, it's Miami.
Yeah, but there are people with
other productions do have plus size models. Pretty much every other production does have plus size models. So it's not unheard of. It's not something new, but it was something that this hotel required of the production.
That is so wild that they care that much They're not even, it's a hotel. Okay, I'm sorry. Now I know why you say it was a long story, because
Yeah.
I'm about to get mad.
No, I was pissed. I was pissed.
Yeah.
And I had to like relay that information, and it hurt because like I'm not plus, but I'm curvy, like, and I design
Yeah.
for curvy people.
Yeah, you've been doing that since your inception, and Marlene has been
Yeah, she's
with
been
you
a
for
part of it.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's been a fit model. I mean, yeah, she's been a part of that. I've bounced ideas off of her. Like, do you think this will work? Like, because that's my customer base. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
it's curvy women. So that really pissed me off. But at this point, we're locked in, and it's an opportunity that we wouldn't have otherwise. So I'm like, I can't just, back down because of that. But that is something that I'd say would be my that was the negative experience of working within that industry in Miami. But otherwise, everything else was cool. But it was crazy because I love our models. Like, they all did a really good job, but they were all really tiny. And again, I make clothes for curvy people. So it was
I get that.
I don't know how we're gonna make this work, but we did. But yeah, they were all super, super tiny.
And that's something that and you know this as someone who watches. You mentioned Harper's Bazaar. It made me think about when we were younger. My mom always looked forward to the fall edition of Vogue, because it was like the bigger one. And she would just go through and just love looking at the clothing, stuff like that. So when you mentioned that, I was like, oh, that's another moment. But a lot of the designers, I think of like Christian Siriano. A lot of his clients, are plus size celebrities. But then when you see his shows, he generally uses, the more, thinner models.
Yeah.
Right. But he's also done a good job of his marketing. People seeing that he can make clothes for Leslie Jones and Tamar and this and that person, right? Or even somebody. I think he's done a couple things for Lizzo too, right? So that drives his business, and you all are very visible, which is why I was so surprised that they told you that, because if they had done they cared to look at you and your product, they would have saw that you all consistently have marketed to curvier women. So, but I like that you were saying that you found your home. And I think even though you didn't enjoy the experience in New York per se, there probably was like an underlining trust that one day you would be able to either get a little bit more comfortable with, not the greatest parts of the industry, or find a space where you can be yourself within the industry, because the fashion industry is it's small, but it's big at the same time, right? And so I love that you were able to, you didn't get discouraged, and that you were able to find your home, So that's
and I'm
beautiful.
glad we went before we just were like, oh, this is something that exists. Let's try to have fashion shows. Like, no, let's go. Let's check it out. Let's check out the vibes, make sure that it's a space that we want to be in. Because again, I think it really inspired and helped us create that goal to be there, because it's the largest swim week in the world. They have them everywhere, but it is the largest one in the world. So.
That is so huge. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my goodness, that is amazing. I'm still super proud of you. Okay, 2 more questions. One's a really quick one, because you said in the beginning you were coming off of your inspiration from the Barbie movie. So I'm just curious, like, without sharing too much, like how did the Barbie movie inspire you?
Oh, well,
I haven't seen it.
So the Barbie movie made me look up the Barbie fashion design game. And
Gotcha.
boy, I was like, oh my God, that's probably why I wanted to be a fashion designer, because I was playing that game. And
I got it.
With it. But also the Barbie movie, oh my God, it's so sick. The costume design is so sick. If I could, or maybe in the future, like pivot careers, it would be in costume design. Because I love film. I love film and television. Like, it's like my hobby right now. So I don't have to think about it in a work way, but like costuming, the Barbie. I'm just so mad because there's so much merch and like marketing and what do you call it? Branding or whatever with Barbie, but like none of it looks like the movie. Like,
Yeah.
I want the stuff that's in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna look up who their
Costume
director of
designer.
costume designer was.
Yeah, her name
I
is Jacqueline Bernard, something with a B. Jacqueline
with a
B.
B. I'm gonna check that out. My favorite is Ruth Carter.
So
She just
me and Ruby went to a fashion event, and
mhm,
Ruth Carter wasn't there, but there were people who knew her
mhm,
that we met,
mhm,
and we met the costume designer who works on like BMF, like all of the
mhm.
basically all the stuff, because Atlanta is a big film city now, so there's
It
a
is.
lot
It
of
is. Yeah.
a lot going on. And through my job, I've done some work on shows because they come
Mhm,
in and they need stuff at the last
mhm,
minute.
mhm.
Um, I recently worked with Mona and Missy's team. That was a whole thing.
Really?
Yeah, so
Wow.
it's been
And Missy's clothes, Missy has outfits.
no, like it's oh, so cool. So I love like I said, I'm really inspired by like film and things like that.
Mhm,
Um, but yeah, the costume design in Barbie was crazy, and the Barbie movie did inspire kind of like the pinks in the collection. Like I said, it's crazy because I was already going that route because I
yeah.
had some photographs, and then usually my coworker says that she feels like creatives we're kind of always like on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
So like Pantone has a color of the year,
Mhm,
and I had already picked my colors in December-ish, and then the
mhm.
color of the year came out and it's like magenta. So I was already on trend, and then the
Look at
Barbie
that.
movie came and it's
Look
what
at
it
that.
is.
And I can definitely see, I feel like we are, putting it, into God's, ears about you being working in TV and film even more. I can totally see you doing
Yeah.
that. And that's so good. Okay. So my last question is, just a piece of advice you would like to share to anyone who is, I want to go specifically into the fashion and design industry because it is a tough industry to tap into. I know from what I saw with my mom and her friends. So, what's a piece of advice for someone who's looking to get into it, or maybe they've been working on it for a while and they're kind of like in that middle, kind of where
hmm
you are? Like,
hmm
what's some advice you would give?
I would say just start. You have to start somewhere. You can always change things. I said
Hmm.
this. I did like a mini talk at convention last year,
Hmm.
and because of the industry that I work in,
Hmm.
where I help other brands come
Hmm.
to fruition and bring things to market, like the one thing I always see is people just being afraid
Yeah.
to post, afraid
Hmm.
to, make that website, afraid to, and it's
Hmm.
like, you literally just have to start.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. And once you start, you just go from there. Again, we talked about all the different pivots we made as a brand. We're constantly changing things. Even if a customer sees something and they order it, I'm going to change it even in the process of it being made just to make sure
Yeah.
that it looks perfect. So you
Yeah.
can always change things. Another thing too that I'm learning and trying to stay focused on is that there's an audience for everybody, and your audience will find you.
Yes. That's a
There's
big one.
yeah,
Yes.
there's so many designers, and I mean obviously coming off of Miami, and just like there'll be people that I've never heard of before. I'll go on their page, they have like millions of followers. You just
Yeah.
and it constantly happens. And so to me anyway, like I'm like,
Yeah.
I've never heard of this person. I go on their page and it's just like, oh, they got all this.
Yeah.
Or I'm meeting other business owners, never heard of their brand before, but they got hundreds of thousands of followers. Like th- just because you're not, Kylie Jenner's not wearing you doesn't mean
Yeah.
that there's not an audience for you.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
there's room for everybody. I know everyone says a competitive industry. It is, but there's market for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so true. And that's why being your authentic self is important, because it allows people to meet you where you are. Right? But there people will come to you. And the other thing about fashion is like, like I can buy, some Rumi, and then I can go buy, some Jay Bolin, or somebody else, like I have the ability to have multiple things in my closet. So I always feel like competition is a scarcity mindset, and I would like to live in abundance. So I'm so proud of you. I know I've said this like 10
Thank you.
times,
No,
but
I really appreciate it.
I'm so proud. I was feeling myself well up as you were talking. You are not allowed to cry, say that.
No, don't do that. But no, thank you so much for having me. And yes, you have been a pivotal part of my success. I'm pretty sure I knew your mom was an artist. You gave me some of her stuff.
We did.
And I'm sure I still have some of it. So, I mean, the spirit is with me. Like,
yeah. Oh my God. It's happening.
Yeah. So everybody is like, it's all meant to be, and you have been pivotal in making me become the woman that I am today. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And thank you for sharing me. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah, of course. Oh my God, that I'm gonna share that with my sister because my mom did have a really strong spirit, and I forgot that I had given you that stuff.
Yes, you did.
So when you were sharing everything and I saw the connection, it's just okay. Well, I find a tissue. Can you?
That was her. Yes, go get a tissue.
Can you share like where people can find you?
Oh, yeah. All of your my Runi is my clothing line. I don't know if I've even said that.
You did, and I said it too.
Line. Our Instagram is Runi ATL, and because we're ATL girls, but we do resort wear, so we got to let people know. And my personal Instagram, which you can find me just kind of talking about the process. I'm trying to do more like process posts and less selling, but just letting people know what it is and what it is to do this, because it is a lot of work. Is my first name, Cymphoni, with a C and an I at the end instead of an S and a Y. Shanae, SHENAE. That's my personal Instagram. And then we have like YouTube. It's like at Runi ATL or at Runi Boutique on TikTok. And
can you share Ruby's? Because she also she does a really good job of like showing the
how to wear.
How to wear.
Yeah, and she's really a pivotal part of the business. Like I say all the time, again, I make pretty things, but I do not know how to put them together. So that is where the stylist comes in. She helps, like, she's the one that made that fashion show look so good, and like the order in which the clothing came out, the way that the pieces were put together, all the accessories. So, she's really pivotal in that side of the business. I'm just here making sure that the clothes look right.
Well, I definitely tell her I'll be reaching out to her very soon, because I want people to see both sides of the magic. And I found her Instagram. It's Style X Ruby Jasmine. But I'm gonna put all of everyone's socials and websites in the show notes, and on YouTube I'll link it all below. But thank you, Cymphoni. And I have to I'm not gonna lie, I've come to Atlanta at least 3 or 4 times in the last couple of years, and I'd be like, oh, I don't really want to see nobody. And it's kind of the same like vacation thing. It's just like it becomes a lot, but I the next time I'm there, we need to link up for sure. And yeah,
I mean, I'm gonna say I'm always here, because I'm not, but I'm on vacation of some sort. But no, for the most part, I'm here, I'm working. So just let me know and I'll make time. You know me. Whenever somebody says, hey, Cymphoni, let's hang out, I usually make time. So.
Yeah, you are for sure. Well, thank you so much. And thank you everybody for watching us, and have a good day.
Yes, you too. Bye.